Annyeonghaseyo! Hey to everybody in Korea. My name is Brian Sachs. I am a senior vice president with ACN. I am very honored to be here, and I am going to be doing a training right now. And my training topic is super exciting. But first of all, I'm going to talk about my story and my background in ACN because I know there's a lot of you who are brand new to ACN. And some of you I have not even met ever, even though I've been with the company forever. There's some of you I've never met. I'll look forward to meeting you after COVID, but I want to make sure you know my story. So here we go. So my story, my background was engineering. I studied really hard in high school. I got into Princeton University, which is one of the Ivy League schools in the Northeastern United States. And I had a great time there. I studied really hard and ran some track and field, and also got an engineering degree. And so there I was with my engineering degree. I tried to get a job in engineering, and I was working 70 hours per week. I was in front of the computer 70 hours a week. I was going crazy. I was thinking to myself, I can't do this for the next 40 years. And I was thinking, I can't do this for the next year. You know, I would actually sit out in the parking lot each day before work, and my stomach would burn. I dreaded going into work so much. So that was, not exciting. And I was really hungry. I was really looking for something. So my best friend, who was also an engineer, he brought something to me, and it ended up being ACN. And this is all the way back in 1996. And I took a look at the company, and I went to a presentation. Actually, it was a home meeting. It was a home presentation on December 21, 1996. And there were 35 people in the actual home. And I got so excited. We were only 10 minutes in to the presentation. And I was thinking to myself, I'm in. I want to leave engineering. I love this. I love this whole concept. Now, I had never met the owners of the company. I had never seen multi-level marketing before. I didn't have any experience in sales, no experience in marketing. I was very gullible because I was only 25 years old and I had no business experience. And so I didn't realize that there's a lot of companies and people out there that are not really that great. And then there's just a few that are phenomenal. So I got started, and I got really lucky because, and now, of course, I see how lucky I am, and I was, because the owners of ACN are phenomenal. It's because of their integrity and their work ethic and their caring and love for people. That's the main reason that ACN is thriving today after 27 years. So I got started in ACN the beginning of 1997. And do you think my start was fast, or do you think my start was slow? Well, it was painfully slow. It was excruciatingly painfully slow. It was just a terrible start. Now, when I first saw ACN, I thought, oh, this is great. I'm going to become a regional vice president in 5 months. And back then, regional vice president was harder to achieve than senior vice president is right now. But it didn't matter. I looked at the marketing plan. I calculated all the numbers. I said, oh, I'm going to be an RVP in 5 months. Guess what? It didn't happen. And I realized that there's a lot of skills that I didn't have because I was not this animated or happy back then. I was a very serious engineer. I can't even stop smiling right now. So I was a very serious engineer. And there's a few things that I had to learn to do in ACN. I had to learn how to shake hands. I had to look people in the eye. I learned how to do that. And I had to learn how to smile. And then after that, things started. I started doing a little bit better, but still it took me 9 months to become a TC. It took me 3.5 years of working really hard to become a regional vice president. I remember sometimes as TC, I would get so frustrated. And, I went full time. I don't recommend going full time from the beginning, but I hated my engineering job. So I decided to take the leap. I didn't have any children. I didn't have anybody depending upon me. And I was very fortunate when it came to that. And so I just went as hard as I possibly could. I did ACN as hard as long as I could each week. I mean, I was working Friday nights and Saturday nights and Sunday nights and all the time. And every time I got frustrated when things weren't happening, I said, all right, I'm going to work twice as hard. And unfortunately, I didn't have the guidance or the leadership that a lot of you have. You get access to some of the best trainings in the world. You've got some of the greatest leaders right there your senior vice presidents in Korea are amazing. I didn't have access to anything like that when I got started. So I had to learn by trial and error. Make a mistake, learn from the mistakes, and then do well. So it took me a while. So finally, 3.5 years, regional vice president. And then the company said they were going to create a new position called senior vice president. They talked about all these benefits, all of this opportunity. And I said, all right, let's do it. And so I actually threw everything in the car. I went out to Texas, which was a good market that was opening. And I went in there and I worked the hardest I've ever worked in my life, probably 110 hours per week for about 8 months. And when the dust settled, I was promoted as the very first senior vice president based upon North American production and the second senior vice president in the world. And then the company said, we are going to open up in Australia. So I said, all right, let's go. So I had just gotten married, and Andrea and I moved down there to Australia, and it was great. We had 2 children down there, and we opened up Australia. From there, we opened up New Zealand. Even though Europe is really far away, it's like 24 hours by airplane. You have to go 8 hours and then 12 hours and layovers and all that. But still, I opened up Poland and Czech Republic and Hungary. Did some good European work. And then of course in 2010, magic happened because we opened up in Korea. Can you believe that we've been in Korea for 11 years? I mean, that's just crazy to think about. So in 2012, we moved back to California, where I'm from, with our 2 children, and it was great because they were able to actually start kindergarten here, where a lot of my family and friends are. And after that, I opened up Mexico and Colombia and Peru and Japan, and we're still here. It's 2021 here in Calabasas and near Los Angeles in California, and it's just fantastic. So I can tell you this, I am so grateful for what ACN has brought me. ACN has brought me freedom. It's brought me time freedom. And that's the thing. And obviously it's brought a lot of money. But before I get into my training, I want to make a really important point. So for some people, only a few people in ACN can make so much money that it's ridiculous. They have everything they ever wanted in life. For a lot of people, they're able to supplement their income, maybe replace their income and have some time freedom, or they're able to make a really good amount of money and have a great quality of life. But here's my question for you. What's more important in life? Is it money or is it time? Obviously, it's time. Who cares if we're making all of the money in the world if we don't have the time to spend with our families or our loved ones, or to travel the places we want to travel, or to do the things that we want to do, or to help other people financially? So here's what my focus and efforts are in ACN. I don't talk to people about becoming rich. It's possible, but it only happens for a very tiny percentage of people. What I talk about is this time freedom. So let's say that this is the amount of money that it takes to pay all of your bills. So this is all of your bills. And let's say in ACN, where we have residual income, you start here, and over time, you make a little bit more in residuals, a little bit more in residuals, and more. What happens when these two match? What happens when there's enough residual income coming from all of your telecom customers, commissions from telecom, commissions from all the other products and services in Korea? What happens when all of your bills are paid from all this residual income? The answer, freedom. You have time freedom. Can you imagine how great that could be to have this time freedom? So what does that mean? It still means you're working. You're still working, but you're working with whomever you want, whenever you want. You know, I see so many families out there, and some of the family members miss stuff that their kids are doing. It's like, oh, I got to go to work. I got to do this. Imagine being able to schedule out your first priority is your family stuff, and around that you do your work. Isn't that great? Isn't that fantastic? Or schedule your vacations and then work around the vacations. So that's fantastic. Now, but some people are not going to get there. Some people are not going to match their regular incomes with residuals. So let's talk about the next group of people. The next group of people, let's say you were able to help a few people to just make enough money so that instead of working 5 days a week at their regular job, they had to work 4 days a week. How life-changing would that be? What if every single weekend was a 3-day weekend for the rest of your life? I mean, wouldn't that be great? So there are so many possibilities with ACN. There's so much opportunity with ACN. I just want to make sure that all of you understand clearly what this is all about. And I want to make sure that none of you ever take this for granted. Is that fair enough? All right. Well, let's talk. I've got a great training today. My training is on country launches. Let's talk about country launches. So first of all, I have a lot of stories. I've got stories in country launches. So why are country launches exciting? Why are country launches a great thing? You know, I would say until you're a TC, you focus all of your time in your country. So you all focus in Korea. After that, only if there's countries that are looking like they're launching, you can focus a little bit of time on that. Or if there's people that say you have in Japan or Australia or the United States, you can actually focus a little bit on that. But I want to focus specifically on launching countries. So I'll give you my experience with country launches. So back in 2004, we launched Australia. I did some really good work in Australia. We were able to put in 6,000 IBOs within 90 days. So some good success. We opened up New Zealand in 2006. And in New Zealand, we put in 7,000 independent business owners, 7,000 IBOs in 90 days. So it was another great country launch. And now in Poland, we opened up Poland in 2006. 2006 was a busy year. And in Poland, there were maybe 12,000 people who showed up to the pre-launches in Poland, 5,000 in Warsaw alone. Everybody was signing up. It was fantastic. So I'll tell you, and sometimes country launches, you have a lot of success right out of the start, and sometimes they're a little bit slow. Colombia was a great one. Peru was a great one. There's a gentleman who's a senior vice president named Memo, and he lives in Querétaro, north of Mexico City. And he had a tremendous launch in Peru. He put in like over 10,000 people. A lot of people actually joined the team there, and he became senior vice president. Very strong business for Memo there. But I want to talk about. Let's talk about Korea. Let's talk about the Korean launch, and this is an interesting one. So the reason why I moved originally to Australia was to help open up Asia. Now, when I moved there in 2005. I didn't know when the next countries would launch, but I said, I'm going to focus on Australia, I'll focus on New Zealand, and then when the Asian countries launch, we're there. So in 2009 actually, we learned that Korea was opening, and so I got very excited, and I prepared my contacts, and I actually went there. I went there a lot. I went there on 6 individual trips that were spaced out in coordination with the company, and I was thinking my goal was for Korea to be the best launch ever. And so, at least for me, I was thinking, tens of thousands of people signing up on my team. And so I was very excited. So I was working so hard. I was working probably 16 hours per day when I was out there, just meeting with everybody. And I had a few different teams going. And my personal team, there was my personal team and there was these other teams. I was building a brand new line. I spent probably 90% of my time in that brand new line. And I had all these people who came to me in that new line. People hadn't signed up yet because it was still during the pre-launch. And they all said, yeah, I'm joining. 500 people are going to join with me. 1,000 people with me. 5,000 with me. You're so lucky, Brian. 10,000 people are going to join. So I was thinking, wow, I should have 30 or 40,000 people join my team. That is not bad at all. That'd be way more than any of the countries that I had launched previously. And so it came down to when people were signing up. From the pre-launch to the launch. At the launch, people actually sign up. And guess how many people signed up for me off of the launch in Korea? All right. So what if 20,000 people had signed up? Would you be excited if 20,000 people joined your team? Obviously. But guess what? That didn't happen. What if 10,000 people had joined your team? That didn't happen for me. How about 5,000 people? No 5,000. No 1,000. This is crazy. I worked so hard and only 30 people signed up. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what happened? I worked so hard. I guess everybody was talking, but they were not real. They were not doing. And I was actually, we train you in ACN not to really get emotional. Well, I was a little bit emotional. The number one person on that team, I'm going to tell you his name a little bit later. But he was the one guy, and there were maybe 30 people on his team, and then I was a little bit dejected. I was thinking to myself, you know what? I've been out here 6 times. I came out there another like 3 or 4 times during the launch process. Let's say I was out there 10 times, 10 big trips, traveling all over Korea, and then there's this gentleman had 30 people under him. I had some other teams there, but the one that I was putting in all the time where I was doing all the work, there were only something like 30 people who joined the team. So I left, and this one gentleman, he only had 30 people on his team, but he was excited. And, we had an office in Seoul, and he would be the first one to wait in line for the Seoul office, and he'd work there all day and work. And for 8 months, he did a whole bunch of work. But he was still, I think, ETT. He wasn't having tons of success. And then within a year, magic happened. One single person signed up on his team. One person. And that person led to another person. And that person built a monster team. In fact, there was a time where 2,000 people or more per month were joining just that one team. And that team just went crazy. So what's the point of the story? The point of the story is that, if you work hard enough, good things will happen. Don't get too discouraged by the lows. Don't get too excited about the highs. Just have faith. Have faith that things will work themselves out as long as you put in the effort, as long as you work hard enough. Does that make sense to everybody? Should make sense to everybody. Okay. And so now, obviously, it was exciting because that team built into Japan. Half of Japan is under that team. It's fantastic. So question, why are country launches exciting? I mean, there's a lot of money available, but why are they exciting? Why are they exciting to me? Why does everybody get excited about country launches? Well, there's a certain amount of excitement that comes with launching a country because you and the people you build can be the first in with that country. You guys can be in a position where you're bringing ACN to that country. And then you've got the opportunity to travel. And who likes to travel? Who likes to travel? Everyone likes to travel. Traveling is so fun. And imagine being able to go to these countries, to travel to some of these countries, and really getting to experience the culture. the people and the food and the geography. At the same time, having the chance to make a lot of money as these countries open up. So that's why I think things are exciting. We usually tell people, though, if you're an ETT, ETL, if you're not yet a TC, we say, hey, hold your horses. We say, don't, focus on you getting the TC in your local marketplace. And then once you're TC, we'll have conversations about building other countries. So in Asia, how many countries are we in? Well, we're in Korea and Japan. 2 countries, that's it. Now, will other countries open? Absolutely, yes. There's lots of countries that will open in the future, but we don't know exactly the time. So let me go over some of these stories when it comes to country launches. I want to give you some of the rules for country launches, and then I'm going to cover how you can benefit personally. Rule number 1, no matter what you hear, do not pass along the information until you know it comes right from the company when it comes to country launches. People were saying for years, oh, you know what? Hold on. Let me go back. You know how I was talking about that one guy, that one gentleman in Korea who was on top of a team, and it built to tens of thousands, probably over 100,000 people right now. Guess who that person is? Mr. Coombe. Mr. Coombe and his wife had the foresight to build really big and to stay focused, even though they were a little bit discouraged. Every day in the office, work, and they came upon someone who became incredible. 2 of my wonderful friends, and I am just proud that I can call them my friends, and they've done so well. Okay, all right, so very important, the story of Mr. Coombe and his wife. All right, okay, so let's get back to this. So let's say that you hear a lot of stuff in multi-level marketing. One of the things I don't like about multi-level marketing is all the misinformation, the wrong information that is talked about. There's so many times where there's a rumor that, oh, this country's opening, oh, this country. And then for some reason, a leader goes in front of the room or on a Zoom and say, hey, I heard this country's opening in 6 months. And when the company had no intention of ever opening that country. So number 1 rule, no promises. Make sure you don't talk to people about a country launch unless you hear the information directly from ACN. Number 1 rule, I don't care if it comes from me. If you don't have proof and evidence that it came from the company, then don't train it in front of the room because it's probably just a rumor. All right, here we go. Compliance and integrity. When it comes to country launches, compliance and integrity are the most 2 important words. So let's say that a country is opening. But I'm not going to use any Asian countries right now because we don't really know what's opening. But let's say that now New Zealand already opened. So New Zealand is about to open, or New Zealand, let's say there's a rumor confirmed by the company so that New Zealand is going to open next year. Great. So what do? So some people, when they hear the information, they go crazy and they start calling everybody in New Zealand. They start doing presentations into New Zealand. Some people will go to New Zealand and do it. That is a great way to get kicked out of ACN. Why? Because let's say that you're the country of New Zealand and you have not yet given ACN a business license. There's no license to do business yet in New Zealand, yet you've got all these ACN people sending in materials, doing presentations. Maybe they're using Australian presentation materials. Who knows what they're saying? I mean, nobody even knows what the products are yet, but people are in there and they're giving presentations and presentations and presentations. So what if you're the country of New Zealand and you see this happening? And you're saying, what's happening? These people, they don't even have a license to do business, yet they're doing business here. You know what we're going to do? We're not even going to give them a license to do business. And that is a really important deal. So what would happen if New Zealand had been delayed by a year or 2 or 3 years? How terrible would that have been for everybody? So ACN has no mercy for people who don't follow the rules. I don't care who you are. I'll give you a Peru story. You know, we had a couple regional vice presidents when Peru opened, didn't listen to the company. They went to Peru. They did a whole bunch of work they shouldn't have done before they were given permission to do it. And those two regional vice presidents, guess what? Terminated. Done. And why is that? Because the number one thing that we need to do is to protect the company. We should never put the company in jeopardy. The company always, always should come first in everything, because you know that the company is the opportunity for everybody in all countries. So the company has, and our compliance division has, a responsibility to protect the company, and that could also mean terminating the people who break the rules, especially in launching countries. Okay, so also, and that means you can't even send materials into that country. If you make your own materials, or if it's Korean materials or American materials, you don't send anything into a country that's not open unless you have permission to do so. And ACN has a timeline. So they'll say, okay, you know, this country is opening on this date. Here's what you can do for the next month. And then for the next month after that, and the month after that. Usually we start with okay, you can talk to one person. And then maybe you can talk to two at one time. And maybe you talk to five at one time. Then you could do big meetings, of course, when there's no COVID. And so there's a progression on things you can do and can't do. And if you don't think that ACN is going to crack down and make sure that everyone's following the rules, then you are mistaken. So you have to make sure you always follow the rules. Always follow the rules. All right. So let's talk. How can you build into a country that's opening effectively? Like, so let's say you're in Korea, or, you know, it could be anybody, really. It could be anybody. And let's say that you're getting excited about this country launching. And let's say, I'm going to say New Zealand again. If I say the name of an Asian country, somebody will say, oh, Brian said that in a training, he said that this country is going to open. I'm not saying that. So let's say New Zealand again. Let's say New Zealand. So let's say New Zealand is opening. So how do you build into New Zealand? I've seen too many people get really excited and they say, you know, I'm just going to go to New Zealand for 6 months. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Because most people in ACN have regular jobs anyways. And if you don't know anybody in New Zealand, that would be a fiasco. I mean, how many people are going to speak Korean in New Zealand? Not too many. And so don't do that. So here's how we do it. We network. We find Koreans living in New Zealand, or we find New Zealanders living in Korea. And that's how you do it. Now, the easiest way to start is, as soon as you hear that a country is launching, you should go through every person that you know, every person that's ever been in ACN, every one of your friends, family members, everybody, and you ask the same question. Do you know anybody from New Zealand? And you ask it again, 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 again. And you will be surprised. There'll be a lot of people you find. Now, New Zealand is a rare case. It's a very tiny country and not too many people from Korea will know people there. But if I said the name of any Asian country in Southeast Asia, there's going to be a ton of people that you know who know people in that country. So then you say, great, how would you like to help launch that country when it opens? And they say, oh yeah, tell me more, tell me more. Because they don't even know what ACN is at that point. They don't even know what the services are. And you know, but everybody's excited about a launch. So you get them to a presentation and you sign them up. And here are the numbers. Typically in ACN, for every 10 people you get in front of a presentation, 1 or 2 people will sign up. If you approach somebody who, you know, is from a country or has contacts in a country that's launching, nearly half of those people will sign up if you focus on that country launching. So for example, let's say that Mr. Park was my good friend, Mr. Park. And let's say Mr. Park had some people that he knew in New Zealand. And I told Mr. Park, I said, hey, Mr. Park, come see this presentation. I'm going to help you become the king of New Zealand. I'm going to help you build a really big team. Now, I know you haven't seen the presentation yet, but come down, take a look, and we can talk about getting involved with the country launch. And I put in his mind, I planted the seed in his mind. And that seed is when New Zealand opens, then there's a great opportunity here to make a lot of money and to participate and lead a country launch. So he's listening to the presentation and he's thinking to himself, oh, this looks really good in Korea here. But he's thinking to himself, New Zealand, New Zealand, New Zealand, New Zealand, New Zealand. The presentation ends. I go up to Mr. Park. Mr. Park, how about it? Do you see the vision? Do you want to help us open New Zealand? Mr. Park, 50% of the time says, I'm in. Let's do it. Let's go. And so what do you do with Mr. Park then? Then you sign him up. He's a Korean IBO. You sign him up and you start saying to him, who do you know who lives in Korea that has contacts in New Zealand? And because he already has contacts in New Zealand, he probably knows other people who has contacts in New Zealand. And all of a sudden you're doing home meetings. You're doing home presentations with 5 or 10 or 15 people in Korea, all of whom have contacts in New Zealand. So you watch your team grow. It started with 1, Mr. Park, and then it turns into 2, and then 5 Koreans, people in New Zealand, then 10 Koreans, and then 20 Koreans, then 50 Koreans, all with New Zealand contacts. So I'm an engineer, and I've crunched the numbers. And let me tell you the numbers. These are really exciting. How would you like to have 3 people? Let's say when the next Asian country opens, how would you like to have 3 people who go to that country, even if you don't go to that country, they go to that country and they open the country, which means they work really hard. They get people in front of the business. They sign up a whole bunch of IBOs. They help the IBOs get customers. That would be incredible, wouldn't it? It's way better than just you going, having 3 people. So how does that work? This is great. Out of every 10 people who sign up and they have contacts in the country that's launching, so out of every 10 Koreans who sign up that have contacts in that country, 3 of them will want to travel there. That is great. So what does that mean? If you have 20 people who sign up as IBOs, you have 6 people who will want to go to that country and open it. If you have 50 IBOs, then you're going to have 15 people who actually go and do that. If you have 100 people sign up, you're going to have 30. That is a huge team. Do you realize in a country launch, one person going can sign up hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people? What if each person, what if you had 10 people and they signed on 100 people each in the country that's launching? That's 1,000 IBOs. What if they get 10 customers apiece? That's 10,000 customers. That is a lot. That is great. So the key is that even if you never go to that country and just support it over Zoom, you can still be in an incredible position. But it all starts with what you do in your local marketplace, The other way to do it too is to build into that country just by making contacts. Now let's say you know that a country's launching, but you can't send in any materials. What do? You make friends on social media. You find people, let's take the New Zealand example. You would find people who are Koreans, expats living in New Zealand, and you just make friends with them. Make friends. You don't talk ACN. You don't talk anything about that. You make friends. You say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be there next year. I'm going to bring a business in. I don't want to talk about it right now, but tell me about you. How long have you lived there? How do you like it? What are the good things to see and do? What are the best foods there? I'm going to come there and do some business, but I want to have fun too. So you build the relationships into those countries. And if you build those relationships into the countries, then when you are allowed by ACN to to actually do presentations and talk to these people either on Zoom or face-to-face, you may already have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 people, 100 people with whom you have a good relationship. And they went from your cold market to your warm market. So then you have all sorts of opportunity there. So one of the questions you have to figure out for yourself is, should you go to that country? And I say run this like a business. Don't wish or hope. Don't go to a country that's opening and say, oh, I'm just going to go there and see what happens. No. That's a great way to waste a whole bunch of money and a whole bunch of time. Prepare in advance. You shouldn't go there unless you got a bunch of people on your Korean team that have contacts there, and you have some people in that country that are from Korea and that you can actually have relationships with and work with. So very important to do this intelligently. And you know what? You should be going to your upline. You should be going to Mr. Kim. You should be going to Mr. Park, Mr. Kuhn, and all the circle members, all of my Korean friends. So that's the big picture when it comes to country launches. Now also know that it takes a long time to get paid on your countries that are launching. You may hear about a country launching 6 months before it launches. So 6 months. So you have 6 months of pre-launch. At the very end of the pre-launch, people get signed up as IBOs, but no money gets paid out because there's no customers yet. So let's say there's 6 months of pre-launch. And let's say after that, maybe there's 60 days of a launch period where people are actually getting customers. And let's say there's another 15 to 30 days after that where all the calculations are being done for the payments. That means there can be 9 months before the very beginning when the country launch happens, or actually between the time when you hear about the country launch. It's all about you working really hard over a period of time, but then all of the money is paid at that time. And so make sure you never focus on needing that money because it takes a while to go. And I'll give you one more rule about country launches. So let's say you're brand new in this country, in this new country that's launching. And actually, let's say that you're from that country, and you're thinking to yourself, well, you know what? I'm going to work really hard here, but I wish I could get paid at a higher level after working for 9 months, 6 months, 9 months. You can, because here's what ACN does. So you go through the launch period. Everybody in the world can work into this country. There's no limits. It's up to you whether you want to work into that country. So you work for 6 months in that country in the pre-launch. Everybody signs up as IBOs. And then during the launch, all the customer points pile in. Customers. All of these customers go in the country, which is great. And then when that happens, people are going up levels. You know, they could go to TC. Somebody in a brand new market who just started could go TC. They could go RVP. There's people in Peru that went from beginning in the pre-launch nothing to RVP. And ACN picks one date, and it's the critical date. And what ACN says is, if you achieve whatever position you achieve by this date, and it's after all the customers have come in the launch, you will get paid retroactively. That means backwards in time. You will get paid backwards in time on all of the people who joined, on all the people who signed up, all the customers that came in. You'll get paid retroactively on that. That is brilliant. That's brilliant, because that means that somebody who started in that new country and they worked really hard, let's say they became TC, they get paid all the way back on all that, on 9 months effort as a TC. Say you're already a TC in Korea. That means if you can go RD or RVP before that magic date, you can get paid retroactively on everything in the past. You can get paid on everything going back in the past on all of this. I mean, isn't that a great thing? So country launches are great. So, and let me finish up with this. So I know you're maybe excited about that, about country launches, and we'd love to see you participate. But right now, there are no country launches in Asia that are being talked about. As soon as the company opens with information, we will let you know. But it also depends upon production. What's the number one way for us to open up a country in Asia, the third country? Well, it's for you in Korea to produce. Or I'll say the same thing. I already said the same thing to the Japanese team. It's up to the Japanese to produce. Between Korea and Japan, if you produce big numbers, then ASEAN will have incentive to open a third country. Why would ASEAN ever want to open a country if production in Korea is low, if production in Japan is low? Because they're thinking, oh, well, how are they going to have good production in a new country if their production in their current countries is bad? So our number one mission must be getting Korea and Japan up to the highest recruiting and customer acquisition numbers ever somewhere after COVID. My personal opinion is that starting in September, that's when some of the big meetings will start again. That's when people will be vaccinated. That means people will feel comfortable going in big groups. That's when I think the big production is going to come. I think we should all have a goal of September, October, and November being really big. November may be one of the biggest months ever for Korea and Japan. And if we can do that, then we can go to the owners and say, listen, look at these numbers. These numbers are great. Let's open a country. And then obviously we'll talk about opening the country. So when you have good production happening in your home country, the trick is to be able to bridge in to a new country and to launch a new country without having a negative impact on your production in your home country. But my best advice is this. Now is the time. Do not wait until September. Don't wait until COVID is done. You build now, because any of the momentum you start now will result in you having much bigger months in September, in October, and in November. You're going to do great in those months if and only if you work hard right now. What do leaders do? Leaders work harder when there's challenges in in a given time period. When there's challenges in a marketplace. I'll give you an example. The most intelligent real estate people, what do? They buy a whole bunch when the market's down. They do all of this work when the market's down, and then when the market goes up, they become rich. So COVID has brought the market down for a lot of countries. But what I would do is work extra hard right now. You saw what Tony Kupas's training was all on new lines and new growth and new teams. So you do whatever you have to do to get all of that going and to build new groups. If your team is not working as hard as you want your team to work, then it's up to you. It's up to you to go in there and to work super hard. It's up to you to get in there and to get things going right now. And how do you do that? By building new people. You don't pull your current team or push your current team. What you do is you build new teams. Some of the people on your team to work, don't do it. Build brand new people. Build brand new teams. That is what ASEAN is all about. That is your mission. So let's make sure we're really focused. I want to see May be the absolute best month that some of you have had over the last 18 months. I know you can do it. Let's get in there. You've got wonderful leadership. Let's work as hard as you possibly can. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you face to face as soon as the COVID disappears. I'm so honored to be part of your leadership. I'm so honored to be part of your team. I love all of you. And I hope you take this training and run with it. And I hope you take my advice and run with it. Have a wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful May. Talk to all of you very soon.